this lawsuit against Fox News, Joy Taylor, and Skip Bayless is crazy. All right. So the plaintiff in this case is Mrs. Faraji. And what happened with her is she was hired at Fox to do hair for some of the females. Initially, she worked closely with Joy Taylor, and then eventually she started doing some work for some of the other personalities at Fox Sports, and specifically FS1. A lot of them, Skip Bayless, Joy Taylor, as I mentioned. She even came in contact with Acho. Y'all have seen him on Speak. It was Speak for Yourself at some point. I think now it's Speak. And we're going to get into this and see what story she's telling, what she's actually looking for, and what Miss Faraji had to deal with at FS1, allegedly. All right. So in another video, if y'all haven't seen it, I'll have it linked in the description. I went through everything that happened here and gave you guys a summary of what's going on. Basically, she got hired. She started to see some things going on between Joy Taylor and one executive at Fox Sports. That executive then pressured Skip Bayless to give Joy Taylor her initial role on Skip and Shannon's Undisputed. Right. And that's kind of where we left things off. Now we get into what happened with Mrs. Faraji when she came in contact with this executive, Mr. Dixon, I gotta be careful how I read these. Mr. Dixon. All right, let's see what she has to say. Oh man, this is gonna be interesting. All right. Mr. Dixon gropes Miss Faraji after putting her on Undisputed. On January 14th, 2017, Joy Taylor had a birthday party at Pearl's rooftop in West Hollywood. Miss Faraji and other Fox employees who were invited attended, as it was a part of their job duties to appease the talent, and a birthday party is an important event. As usual, Mr. Dixon, this is the executive, he's basically in charge of how content is handled at FS1 specifically. Mr. Dixon was heavily drinking, buying drinks for everyone on a Fox credit card, and blustering that everyone purchased that everything purchased was on Fox's dime. As Miss Faraji was standing near the bar facing the crowd, Mr. Dixon approached her. He asked the bartender for a drink and then placed his arm on Miss Faraji's lower back. He asked how she was doing, if she was having fun, and if she wanted a tequila shot. Miss Faraji felt very uncomfortable by his unsolicited touching and responded, "No, thank you." Mr. Dixon then moved his hand lower and started rubbing her body and grabbing her booty. Oh, Lord. Miss Faraji was mortified, but quickly thought to fake an incoming call to escape from the situation. Miss Faraji did not know who to turn to, but she knew Miss Taylor, or Joy Taylor, was sleeping with Mr. Dixon. She turned to her. Surprisingly, Miss Taylor responded to, "Get over it," and explained that she herself only had her job because of Mr. Dixon, and that Miss Faraji only had her job because Miss Taylor requested her. Wow, Joy Taylor, man, pulling rank there. She warned that Mr. Dixon could take both away. All right, Mr. Dixon. I'm going to say, what's his first name? I got to go back and look at his first name because saying Mr. Dixon is not working out for me. Miss Faraji was terrified and then turned to her co-worker, who will remain anonymous, to discuss the situation. The co-worker responded that Mr. Dixon was disgusting and that the entire situation was sick, but that it wasn't shocking given Fox's culture, and that Miss Faraji should remain quiet if she wanted to keep her job. As a single mother who needed the job to support her son, Miss Faraji had no choice but to remain silent. Wow. 7 years later in 2023, Miss Peretti, and this was Miss Faraji's boss. So basically Fox they had a company that they went through to hire people to work for FS1, right? She told Miss Faraji that she didn't like her or anything about Undisputed. Miss Peretti explained that she had already scheduled someone for a hair on Undisputed when Mr. Dixon called her and told her that she must put Miss Faraji on Undisputed full time. Miss Peretti told Miss Faraji, "I didn't like that. That's not how things should be done. Miss Faraji was stunned and devastated as she prized herself on her work and earning her accolades. Later that day, while thinking about her career, she was angry with Miss Peretti, succumbed to Mr. Dixon's request, as it gave Mr. Dixon the feeling that he could grope her for giving her a job. Oh man, Mr. Dixon, y'all are crazy. Mr. Dixon gets rid of female talent member for refusing to, let's just say, have sex with him. All right. Several years into Miss Faraji's tenure at Fox, a female talent member who's going to remain anonymous hired Miss Faraji to do her hair at her house for an awards show. The anonymous claimant asked Miss Faraji to meet her for lunch first. There, the anonymous told Miss Faraji that she would no longer be with Fox, as Mr. Dixon told her that she would need to have sex with him if she wanted to renew her contract, but she refused. Oh, now let's think about this. I want to think about the timing on this. It could have been anybody, but they name her in here as a female talent member, which means she was probably on the show, which means it could have been several people. I know Jenny Taft was in there. She was co-hosting, or she was helping host Undisputed at one point. Trying to think of other females who would have been on the network. Anyway, y'all let me know in the comments. Y'all probably be more knowledgeable about it and be able to pinpoint who this was. She doesn't give a timestamp for this. It just says she was several years into her tenure, so it could have been anybody. Either way, she told her that she would no longer be at Fox. And she said Mr. Dixon wanted to have sex with her, but she refused. And then Anonymous further conveyed that Mr. Dixon was doing this to other female talent. She would warn Miss Taylor to be careful, and a talk show host had recently reported Mr. Dixon. Now, the interesting thing is going to be a lot of these reports and alleged HR reports should be documented somewhere. If not, well, it's going to be a bad look. Following the lunch, Miss Faraji called Miss Taylor to convey what the anonymous person had stated. Miss Taylor responded that no one gives a fuck about Anonymous or the talk show host who reported Mr. Dixon. Miss Faraji later observed that Miss Taylor's remark appeared accurate, as no actions were taken to address the concerns raised. If it was not already apparent, it became even more clear that Fox enabled high-ranking individuals to abuse their authority, exerting undue control over female talents and employees. This is nothing new, but it's definitely not right. Fear permeated the workplace as stories of mistreatment circulated. As one example, Mr. Dixon deliberately assigned a female talent member who had been harassed and reported it to a show set up to fail. Wow. When the show inevitably failed due to sabotage. Okay, this is all hearsay. I mean, you don't know. There's no way she could prove that. He used its failure as a justification to terminate her employment. In another instance, a coworker who frequently cried in the hallway due to the relentless sexual harassment was fired just 1 week after reporting it. These repeated incidents reinforced an atmosphere where speaking up, that's ironic. Speaking up seemed futile and dangerous. Now, this is where the class action part comes in, because there's going to be a lot of other people included in this lawsuit against Fox. So it's not just Miss Faraji. We'll get into more about that later.